maneuver.
I'll start.
Tallest first.
Yes, although I'm probably shortest. My name is Chad Wilson. I have a PhD in literature. So I'm not a scientist. I'm not a science fiction writer. I sometimes tell people that I'm a critic, but mainly I'm an aficionado. Okay, I currently teach technical writing for engineers at the University of Houston. I direct their technical communications program for the College of Engineering. And my PhD was in Victorian literature, writing about allegory and post-colonialism, which I've done nothing with since I got my PhD. But since I started working for the College of Engineering, I got moved more into the science field and begun researching basically the relationship between science and science fiction and how to use it to teach things such as ethics, which is my main focus, how to use science fiction to teach ethics. So, that's who I am, Chad Wilson. At any point you can say, hey Chad, what about this? So.
All right, my name is Raymund Eich. I have an undergrad and a PhD in biochemistry here at Rice. In grad school, you learn many things in grad school. One of them for me was that I hated doing experiments. I was going to be a successful career at the bench. So I now work as a patent agent for a law firm here in Houston. So I write patent applications and represent clients at the U.S. Patent Office. I've been writing science fiction, as a hobby since I was a teenager. I've been serious about it the past 10 or 12 years. I have a few short story sales, and currently working on a novel, almost done, about postmodern religions and AI revolts. So hopefully that'll be coming to your bookstore near you in a few years. Right, that's it.
My name is Alexis Glynn Latner. Some of you may know me from checking books out to you in the library. The other half of my life is I write science fiction, fantasy, horror, little mystery. I've done technical writing, technical articles, editing, coaching, and proofreading. My first novel came out in 2007. It's called Hurricane Moon, and it's hard science fiction. That means a lot of physics, astronomy, biology, engineering, and some other technical stuff. I love doing science fiction with real scientists, and so like every other science fiction writer, I really prize scientists. You can talk to, bounce ideas off of, and if they kind of go like, you say, oh, okay, that must not be a good idea. Can you talk to me some more? I'm very happy to be here. My educational background is bachelor's, BA at Rice, in linguistics and German literature. Then I went to the Graduate Theological Union in Berkeley, California to get an MA in systematic theology. Theology, particularly in Berkeley, happens to be a great background for writing science fiction because, as Ray is demonstrating, so often in science fiction you can get the biggest ideas of all and the most highly charged ideas of all. Religion, spirituality, the human future, the meaning of everything. It's a real cool genre for stuff. Even better when there's real science to keep it from floating away.
Okay, great. Thanks. It's going to be a really cool panel. I'm excited. All right. If any of y'all have any questions or...
You can start. Yeah.
Well, kind of the thesis of our little panel is the interplay of science and science fiction, right? So you talked a little bit about getting inspiration from actual scientists. So if you could talk a little bit more about that and maybe more about whether science goes the other way. Do you think science gets any inspiration from science fiction? Like whether we're working on particular things because of what we've seen?
Let me reverse the order of these questions.
Okay, sure.
The answer to that historically is absolutely yes. A lot of people I know at NASA Johnson Space Center and other people in the space business, you hear it again and again and again. Inspired by science fiction, inspired by science fiction. And there was, for a long time, the interplay between science fiction illustration, like the classic Chesley Bonestell paintings of exploring the moon and the solar system, Then you had Werner von Braun with his incredible depictions of space stations that came out in things like, I'm going to say, Life magazine. This stuff inspired a lot of scientists and engineers. I think it extends into the biological sciences. I'm sure in the physics and space scientists, like every space scientist I know, and I know a lot of them, science fiction readers go way, way back. A lot of people can tell you the first science fiction they ever read. Mine was Battle on Mercury. It was when I was like 11. And it was so cool to imagine planet Mercury with people on it. And these energy beings zipping around. And just that, gee, Mercury is a real place. Scientists know about it, and they're starting to send space probes out. But put all that stuff, it's just so cool. And how can that charge not inspire anybody? And for the other way around, like I said, if you want to do hard science fiction writing, you cultivate scientists, even if you are one, because a biochemist can't do the high-flying science fiction necessarily in molecular physics. You have to, talk and network. And if you're not a degreed scientist at all, you do so with great care and consideration, and you listen good. If I may, I'd like to read the acknowledgments for Hurricane Room, which will pretty much answer the first part of your question. This book could not have been created without the expert and lively advice of space physicists, biomedical researchers, engineers, social scientists, and astronaut candidates. My most profound thanks go to Paula Birch, Kristen Ferry, Mark Hairston, Valerie Olson, Sedge Simmons, and Eileen Stansberry, all of whom are PhD graduates of Rice University in Houston, Texas. So it was a lot of work with these folks, and sketching on the back of napkins and emailing back and forth that made the book as plausible as it is, and it's plausible enough to get a really good review from the National Space Society and a couple of other discerning places. So Rice and the scientists, really made that book, and in many ways made my career.
Yeah, I would also tackle the question in the same reverse order.
Okay.
I know for me, science fiction inspired me to get a PhD in biochemistry. I spent most of my teen years assuming everyone who was a scientist had gotten into it because they were science fiction fans.
Actually, does anybody in the audience, I know I got into science a lot because of science fiction. I don't know if anyone else nods of heads in the audience. Okay, come on, admit it. Yes, all right.
Yeah, and speaking of acknowledgments, I don't have my dissertation with me, but one of the acknowledgments there was to Greg Bear for the novel Blood Music, which was exceedingly speculative, kind of bogus molecular biology, but fun and mind expanding. Which when you're 16 years old in small town Missouri, stuff like that really powerful. As for science fiction influencing scientists, there's the writer and critic Thomas Dish wrote a book a few years ago called "The Dreams Our Stuff Is Made Of," and it's all about how science fiction conquered pop culture. But there's also a lot of applicability of how science fiction has inspired scientists. I don't know if Gordon Gould, one of the inventors of the laser, I don't know if he read science fiction, but I know that from the H.G. Wells and Jules Verne in the Victorian era up through the 50s, you had ray guns and death rays on every other page of Astounding and those kind of magazines. So